Hi, and welcome to Financial Behavior Thought Leaders. I'm Mary, and this podcast takes you behind the scenes with the top speakers in financial services. So, whether you're a financial advisor booking a client event, an event planner looking for the perfect keynote, or a financial professional wanting to learn from industry thought leaders, you're in the right place. Today, we're featuring Deirdre Van Nest, one of the exclusive speakers at Financial Behavior Keynote Group. In this conversation, we'll dive into her journey, unpack her keynote, getting to the yes quicker, and you'll hear a story straight from her talk that you can apply in your own business. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, Deirdre.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here, Mary.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I
Okay.
love this story of how you got started on your speaking career. Will you share with everybody how you got to the
Oh,
stage?
yeah, you love hearing how terrified I was. Does that amuse you?
I just think it's
Yes.
so great.
I know I'm the most unlikely speaker, and the fact that I speak on speaking is even more ridiculous to me because I was someone who purposely avoided the spotlight, the stage, anything for 24 years, Mary. 24 years from when I was 14 to what, about 38?
Mm-hmm.
Avoided it like the plague. I had a really bad experience in my ninth grade acting class where I got called out in front of the room. And if you've ever had that happen to you in any kind of work or school setting, you know, like it was humiliating.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, I made a vow. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be humiliated like this again. So at the end of the semester, I quit acting and I was like, that's it. And I wouldn't speak in public, nothing. And I avoided like leadership opportunities. That's what makes me go, oh, if I could go back to that young woman and just like wrap her in my arms, you know? One that really comes to mind is I have a master's degree in occupational therapy. I don't know if you knew
Mm-hmm.
that about me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going through my coursework, my second year, like the end of the first year, I had some classmates come up and they said, "Hey, do you want to run for president next year?" And my only question, Mary, was, "Do I have to give a speech?" And they're like,
Wow.
Probably at commencement." I said, "Nope, I'll run for vice president." That's how bad it was.
Wow. So what
Yeah.
changed?
So what changed was I got certified in 2007 as a fearless living coach. And I was working with entrepreneurs like financial advisors, helping them recognize the fear and excuses that were holding them back in their business and in their lives. And so,
Mm,
two things happened. The first was I always walk my talk. So, how could I work with my clients on their biggest fears and I won't get on the stage? Like that didn't work for me.
yeah.
But the second was everybody that I talked to about building a business said the best way to get out there, to share your message, to get clients to be seen is speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the beauty in leveraging myself and being able to talk to 30 clients at once instead of one client at once, or 100 clients, or 10 clients, right? And so I did something really courageous. I hired a speaking coach, and working with my coach changed my life.
So
And
tell us
then
why.
that's how, yeah. And so that's how I shifted. Well, it brought about this confidence that I didn't have before. I
Mhm.
had this influence and this impact I didn't have before. And it taught me how to bring in clients from the back of the room, which is a very leveraged way to grow your business. And I started getting paid to actually speak. So it was like, oh my gosh, right? This is amazing. And I started sharing this with some of my clients, my fearless living clients, because they were all entrepreneurs. They started having a lot of success, and I thought, I need to do this for a living. Like I need to, like, I love
Yeah.
this. I need to, and it brought me back to my acting roots. It was like this dormant, dead part of myself came
Yeah.
alive again through this process. And so in 2011, I got certified as a world-class speaking coach. And I said, okay, I'm going to switch from the fearless living to the speaking, storytelling, content creation. And it's been like that ever since.
You know what I really love? A couple of things. One is you faced your fear.
Hmm.
Two is you really started in the coaching world. And it's kind of
Hmm.
like psychology where you have to look internally before you can
Yeah.
share it with someone else. Um,
Yes.
and the fact that you have been there and have been humiliated, you know that feeling. So
Yeah.
as a coach, specifically as a speaking coach, you know what not to say to put somebody in that same position that you were in because you felt that yourself?
I love that. And I didn't really probably put this together, but when I tell my clients, and I just said it to an advisor, I'm coaching these two advisors, and I just said to him today, he was showing me a YouTube video that he's doing, and I was, critiquing it, and I just said, okay, I'm candidly kind. So I always want to be candid because I'm all for their growth. Like I stand for
Mhm.
their growth, but I always do it in a way I always say I love people to the next level. Like I
Yep.
want to love you to the next level, right? I'm going to be
Yep.
kind in how I say this, and I'm going to affirm what you're doing well. And here's where we can change to get you to the next level.
Yep.
And
I
maybe
love
it goes
that.
back to that. It probably goes back to that.
Candidly kind. And it
Hmm.
does. I think
Yeah.
everyone's got that sense of fear of, oh, don't don't hit me there. That's embarrassing.
Right. Totally.
Well, so in part of this coaching, you also talk a lot about emotional intelligence and
Hmm.
communication. You storytelling, I feel like is your jam, right? The
Hmm.
personal
Yeah.
branding behind your why and really
Yeah.
helping advisors build that trust, not just over moments, but over years. So tell our
Yes.
listeners what these things mean and why is it important for advisors today?
Okay. So it's important for advisors today. I mean, it's always been important, right?
Sure.
But it's important for advisors today because of the fact, like AI, for example, right? Like AI can come in and it can do some things that the advisors are currently doing. So I think AI is a beautiful tool to help advisors do their role better. But this does mean that the advisor needs to pay more attention to their human side of the skills, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what people are going to be coming to the advisor for, is more for that relationship. I'm not saying they're not coming for the understanding and the knowledge. However, a lot of that they could get online if they wanted to. I think you'd probably
Mhm.
agree with that, Mary, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've talked about
Yeah,
this so many times of they can spit out information, but it can't make that connection.
exactly. And so that connection is becoming more and more important, and people are wanting that and depending on that more. And so the advisors that can quickly make the connection, that can deeply make the connection, are the ones that are going to win the clients or get that yes more often.
So let's dig into the yes, actually. That
Mm,
is your keynote is getting to the yes
yes,
quicker. So I want to
yes.
hear a little bit of history of how you got here. Like why
Oh, yeah.
that topic? And then we'll go from there. Tell us the history of
Okay.
why this is
All right. Let
great.
me tell you the experience with this. All right. So I don't know if you've ever been here, Mary. Maybe a listener has been here where from the outside, your business or your career is looking good.
Yes.
Everything looks good on paper. And something feels a little off inside, or maybe a little dead inside, or just not aligned. Have you ever had
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Small business owner, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So about 2015, I got there. I just started feeling really dissatisfied. Something was out of alignment. The only way I could describe it is I felt like every time I got on the stage, a part of myself was left outside the room.
Mm, wow.
Yeah. And it bothered me. It bothered me. And so I spent some time, probably about a year and a half, soul searching, praying, trying to figure like what's going on here? What's going on? And what I finally realized is I had this belief as a speaker that my audience, and these were advisors mostly, right,
Mhm.
didn't really care about the person presenting the content, that I was just a vessel for content. And as long as it was engaging, who I was, my humanity, didn't really matter.
Wow.
And that was no longer good enough for me.
Wow.
So, January 11th, 2017, I did probably one of those scariest things I've ever done after getting on the stage that first time. I shared, and I didn't have this language for it at the time. I'm gonna call it what I call it now.
Okay.
I shared what I now call my personal brand, why I care story to a group of advisors in Minneapolis. Okay. And I got on the stage and I opened with a bang, like I always do, which means you open in a way that grabs the attention of the audience. And then I kind of set up what we were going to talk about. And I said, but before we get into that, I want to tell you why I care so much about the work that you do, why I care about the work that I'm going to do with you today. and I shared my story. And Mary, the craziest thing happened. Okay. So as soon as I was done sharing it, there are these two advisors sitting in the third row on the left hand side. Their hands go shooting up in the air. And I'm terrified because I'm thinking, I've never shared this before. I don't know what they're going to say. Right.
Yeah.
And so the first advisor says, it really means a lot to me that you understand what we do. Thank you.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that was good. So I call him the second advisor's name is Joe. And I'm like, Joe, now I want you to imagine if someone said this to you in your audience, okay, or one on one. He leans forward and he says, Deirdre, I just want you to know I will believe anything you say right now.
This is the middle of your speech.
This is the middle of my speech.
Oh my gosh.
This is a top producer.
Okay.
And I later learned this is because he became a client, a more skeptical, analytical type of person.
Those are the hard ones. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you think I felt and thought when he said that to me?
Well, I would be like you because you never know where those questions are going to go. And you're in the middle of your speech. You've just set it
Yeah.
up. You still have 3/4 to get through. And
It
you're
was a
like,
half day. It was like a half day training too, right? So I
where
got
is this
hours.
going?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so first of all, most people are like, oh, I would have been so excited. Like, of course,
Yeah.
we
Yeah. Yeah.
that's great if someone says, I will believe anything you say right now, right? So there was a part of me that was relieved, a part of me that was excited, but there was a part of me that was ticked off. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I
Huh.
was ticked off. So
Yeah.
I am probably one of the few experts that you will interview who has no background in finance.
Yep.
I might be the only one on your in your whole roster of people. I might be the only person. I do not have a background in financial services,
Uh-huh.
which does prove my point of how important being a powerful speaker is. We can talk about that later, okay?
Yeah.
So I I got into this industry because I was helping advisors one on one. They loved the work we were doing,
Hmm.
and they started introducing me to their managers. And then their managers loved the presentations and their work, and they started introducing me to their people and their people, and then it grew. And as I got into the business, I realized why I love it so much, which has to do with my personal story. Okay.
Okay.
So I always had, even though I have my own letters after my name, I'm highly educated, I got the master's degree. I don't have your letters. And you like your letters in this industry. Like, these
Yes,
letters are
we
important,
do.
right?
Yeah.
So I always felt intimidated and a little bit less than, like I had to prove myself, Mary. And so what I did from like 2010 to that day in 2017 is I spent a lot of time sharing stories that would prove how valuable I was and how
Mm.
valuable the work I was doing. And so when he said, after I just shared why I cared, I will believe anything you say right now. It was like this Wizard of Oz moment. I thought, you mean I had the shoes on all the time? Do you mean I've spent the last 7 years trying to prove myself and all I had to do is be myself
Yep.
and you will believe anything I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a magical light bulb moment.
Wow.
And so what happened for my business, and then I want to correlate it to advisors. What happened for my business is I started sharing that story everywhere that I showed up.
Mhm.
And we changed nothing over the next 2 years, and my business grew by 60%.
Holy cow.
Yeah, because of that one story.
Wow. Wow. Where you
So about a
really
year
opened
into,
up.
yeah, so about a year into it, I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Like, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm not,
Yeah.
like it's a pretty heartfelt, dramatic story. Could this actually be a strategy for my wholesalers and my advisors and my leaders to use, like leaders when they're recruiting, advisors with clients, wholesalers with advisors? Could this help them? So I started teaching my speech coaching, my other, I was teaching other story creation clients. They started having the same results. I had
Wow.
one wholesaler who got a standing ovation from a group of advisors.
That doesn't
When does
happen
that
often.
happen? That
Ever.
doesn't happen. Never.
Right.
I had advisors starting to convert more than ever before. And I was like, I am on to something here. And I officially started teaching this personal brand why I care story, and I call it Get to the Yes Quicker, because this story, when it's told right and it's the right story crafted in the right way to your right audience, will increase trust, connection, and likability in 3 minutes or less. And
Okay,
in
let
my
me get back.
keynote, I
Yeah.
actually prove that out. Like we do an exercise where I prove it out.
Wow. So we're looking
Yes,
at trust, connection,
connection and
and
likability.
likability. Those are the three key concepts that they're going to walk away with, the
They're going to
tangibles.
walk away with, like, here's how you increase those three. Like, this is how you do it. It's a tangible, practical strategy. Like, trust, connection, and likability can be intentionally increased. It's not just luck of the draw if you happen to be
Hmm.
likable or have a charismatic personality. You absolutely can do very specific things to increase it.
So I want to go two places with this. One is I want to dig into success stories that you've seen from financial advisors that have
Hmm.
used this. And then
Hmm.
secondly, let's get outside financial advising for a minute and let's talk about other places you've seen this successful because those aren't magic to just financial advisors. That trust, connection,
Correct.
and likability, that's human connection. So start
It's
with the
human.
financial advisor. What have you seen as you've done this over the years? What success have you seen advisors come back with in using
Yeah.
this?
Okay. So there's a couple of stories, and there's many, but there's a couple that stand out in my brain. So
Okay.
the one, and this is probably one of my favorites. So it was an advisor named, I'm going to call her Susan. Okay.
Okay.
So she had been in for 4 years when I met her. And I met her at a conference, and she heard me speak on this. And she came up and she said, my firm, every year we do this kind of like feel good event for the community where
Mm,
we're feeding the hungry, like packing up
sure.
meals for kids overseas. Right. And she said, and we rotate the advisors who host it. And so I host it this year. And we get a lot of pats on the back for this, when people bring their friends and their community and our clients and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? In 11 years of hosting this event, you know what our firm has never gotten?
What?
Business. They could never track
Oh,
any business back to this event. It's my year to host, she said. I want this to be different. I want to get clients from this.
interesting.
Okay. So let's fast forward. It's a year later. I see her again. The same client hired me to speak again. I see her again. She comes running up to me and she's like, "Remember I told you about that event?" I'm like, "Yes. Whatever happened?" She said, "Before I left, I had 5 people come up to me and say, 'Can we meet?' And 3 became clients within a couple of weeks."
Wow.
This
From
was the
something that had
first
never
time.
happened.
Yep, this is the first time in 11 years, and she was one of their newer advisors, that they could track any business back to this event.
Wow.
And so I said, "What did you do differently?" She said, "I opened with my why I care story. I didn't do the
Mm,
typical, 'Thanks for having me. My name is Susan. I'm with FYZ Financial and blah, 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 and this and that.' I actually opened with my story and it tied in beautifully to what we were doing that day.
yep.
And
Yep.
I made that personal connection and they trusted me." I love that story.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Amazing. And
Hmm.
so, and what I loved about it too is it was so not your typical office pitch, right? Like we've all talked about prospecting market. This was a service day. Like I would never think to connect service day with clients, but it
Yes.
can happen anywhere at any point in time.
Anywhere. Anywhere. So client events, right? Like a lot of client events say, my clients, I don't have to work, I don't really
Yeah.
think about it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one. So here's a top producing advisor story.
Okay.
So I love this. Okay. So Roger is, he's been in the industry for 40 years. It's a long
Wow.
time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
His firm has 12,000 advisors. He's always in the top 50, and he's in Dallas and has very high net worth clients. I like to mention all these factors because I take away the excuse from anyone out there thinking, well, my clients are too
Mm,
sophisticated, or
yeah.
I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can
Yep.
always grow, right? We can
Yep.
always get just a little bit better. And Roger has a complete growth mindset. So Roger, well, we put together a story for him, and he goes, "All right, I'm gonna track this, right? I'm gonna use this in all my one-on-one conversations with new prospects." So we tracked it, and I believe it was over a 6-month period of time. We checked in, we said, "What happened?" And he said, "Not one person who walked in as a prospect walked out as a prospect." So every person who walked in as a prospect
Converted.
walked out of a client. 100% conversion rate.
That's
And
amazing.
that's the only thing he changed. Now, of course, I want to know, well, where were you before? Because you're
Yeah.
pretty good. Where were you?
Yeah.
And he said, I was at an 85, 90%. I was at an 85 to 90%.
But
And
this
but I
closed the
felt
gap.
like for someone that skilled
Yeah.
to give him a tool that closed the gap 10 to 15%, that is a massive amount of revenue and a massive amount of impact.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So we've
And I have one more
talked.
story. I
Yeah.
got one more story. Can I
Dig
tell you one?
in. I
Okay.
want to
Because this
hear.
is important. This is important too. So, one of the things that we have our clients do is when the stories are crafted, we have them put it to video. And then one of the strategies that I recommend is they send it out to their entire database. Right.
Okay.
And they say something like, okay, Deirdre, you and I have been working together for years. You know what I do and how I do it. But I don't think I've ever shared why I do it. I would love for you to see why I care so much about you. Right. And then you can put in just a little soft, like, and hey, and if you know anyone else that you think would resonate with my why, would you pass it along? And it's such a
Mm,
great way to get referrals in this very beautiful, like organic kind of way where it doesn't feel weird or awkward. Right. And so we had just finished crafting the story and the video for a client. And I had a new member on my team who I was probably about a month prior to that said, hey, I need a new financial advisor. Who would you recommend? And so I'd been working with this client, someone I worked with for years, and he's phenomenal. And I said, I think you'd really like Todd. And okay, but she never reached out to him. And I just thought, all right, well, whatever. So we're on a team meeting. I unveiled his story, his video. I was like, okay, I want you guys to see Todd's video. So I unveiled the story. I get a text from her during, like, the video's about to end. She goes, is that the Todd you told me that I should work with? I said, yes. She goes, you're right. Reaches out to him and he tells me, like, a month later, she's like an ideal client. And so what I think happens is it's not that the people don't trust the referral source, they don't trust the advisor yet. And
mm-hmm.
that is a scary call to make.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Advisors are asking them very personal things that they might not even talk about with their spouse.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody wants to face their stuff too. Like if things are not great and so having that personal story that this is a human being.
Yeah.
I've had advisors tell me, I've sent this video to new prospects, which we always recommend, and they walk in and they'll say, I'm sold. Like, let's work together. They come in ready to work with the advisor.
Yeah. That's
There's
amazing.
nothing like it. I know. There's
No.
nothing like I've never seen anything like it ever.
Well, and I know that you speak not just in financial services, but to all kinds of groups in and outside of financial services. Do you have a story of maybe someone who wasn't looking to bring on clients, but this still mattered? It still impacted what they did?
Well, yes, because so I work with, entrepreneurs and leaders, and I put advisors under the entrepreneur category. And,
Fair. Yeah.
95% of my work is in financial services. And then about 5% will be like, just a mixed kind of bag of entrepreneurs, people like me, speakers, authors, coaches, consultants. And I would say where it really makes a difference is from the stage when you are delivering a keynote or a breakout. Sharing that story towards the beginning just really warms the audience speaker relationship up, so they see a
Mm-hmm.
difference in the energy. I had one actually speaker tell me, he was a consultant and he was actually presenting to a board, and he was kind of pitching that they should work with him. And he said, I walked in the room and they were just a little like aloof, like they weren't super friendly.
Yeah.
And he shared his why story. He goes, Deirdre, I went from people like not really smiling at me to leaning forward, wanting to touch me.
From nothing to everything, a little too close, huh?
Right, exactly. And he walked out, and the chairman like walked with him to his car, and he's like, "We can't wait to work with you." Right.
Wow.
So just stories like that, I hear that all the time, and just audiences that were maybe just a little like aloof or sort of laid back.
Yeah.
And I feel it in my own presentations, like you just feel this leaning in energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it leaves people with, I remember her because of that story, because of that connection, because of that. I want that. I want to be more like that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's great for like the nonprofit sector. So
Yeah.
my daughter and I just started a new ministry, and we were on a Zoom last week with a company who finds, fuels, and funds ministries. And basically they're looking to see if they want to partner with us to do some funding and do some training with our team. And we opened with our why story. And after we told it, the main person said, I've listened to hundreds of these. It's kind of little like Shark Tank, but
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
He goes, I've listened to hundreds of these. That was the best I've ever heard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, wow. Like, and it's because we led with with that story.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
not like anything special about us. Like we knew to do this, and we knew how to craft the story.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
if today's conversation has sparked an idea for you or your team, you can download Deirdre's speaker sheet at Financial Behavior Thought Leaders. I want to dig in one more thing before we
Yeah.
go. And before we wrap up, this is probably one of my favorite stories that I think is going to be exciting with you
Oh
is
boy.
Deirdre, there's several things unique about you, and you shared some of them today.
Mm,
But
hmm.
give us something else that's unique about you that most people in the audience don't know.
Oh, the fact that I've been living on a boat
That's it.
for the last 3 years. Oh my gosh. So, my husband's boyhood dream was to live in Florida and live on a boat someday.
That is so
And in
funny.
2023, we sold everything we own. We went from a 4,000 square foot house. We now have all of our things in pretty much a 5 by 5 storage unit.
Mm.
Mhm. And we've lived on a boat down in St. Petersburg, Florida.
And that has literally, and here's the analogy, weathered
Yeah.
the storm, get it? But I feel like that like adds into your adaptability that you just can move and adapt to whatever environment you're in.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I've been a flexible person, but this has made me even more so, right? And so you can imagine, like, sometimes we don't have water. I'll never
Yeah.
forget the time I came home from a keynote. I don't remember where I traveled, but it was far, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And my husband met me at the gate of the marina. We're walking down the dock, and he goes, "Oh, did I mention we don't have water?"
Oh.
And I just went like this, Mary. I went,
Of course we don't have water. I guess
"Okay."
I'll jump into the ocean.
Okay, and sometimes we didn't have electricity. And I mean, the closet was like this big. We shared a small closet. So, yes. And the way that I think this shows up on stage is you could throw most scenarios at me and I'd be like, all right, I got it. Like, I can
Yeah.
roll with that. You need me to go last? You need me to go first? You need to change this, you need to change that. Oh, we're doing this now. We're doing Zoom. We're not like, I'm like, all right, I got it. Like, I'm pretty, adaptable to what's ever going on. And I really do look at my event hosts as I look at it as a partner. Like, I look at it,
Mm.
I want to come and do my part to make this the best event your team has ever put on, the best event that your audience has ever been to. And so, whatever I can do on my end to contribute towards that, I'm going to do.
Well, and I have to admit, if you can go from a 4,000 square foot house to a 5 by 5 storage unit, that's showing adaptability right there.
Yes.
I think you just summed that up. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're a firm, advisor team, or event planner looking for a speaker who can offer both a holistic and flexible approach, someone who can blend personal development, emotional intelligence, and professional storytelling, you look no more and book Deirdre at financialbehaviorthoughtleaders.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back soon with more conversations that bring you closer to the leading voices in financial services.